This is Rodolfo. How are you, everyone? Welcome back to the course ACET 104 for your certification. So I hope that you're having the best time. I will just move this window over here so I can watch you better when you write right there in the chat Q&A of Q&A. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome. There are some people still joining, which is wonderful. So very good job yesterday with your labs, everyone. Very, very good job. So welcome one more time to the Microsoft Azure Administrator Certification. Today is the third day. I am your instructor. Oh, I'm sorry for that overlap. You know me, Jose Rodolfo Moreno. I am from Mexico. I'm an MCT Microsoft Certified Trainer. And something that you don't know about me, my favorite movie, it's actually Chappie. And lately, I don't know if you have seen that movie. It's called Finch. It's with Tom Hanks. And it's about technology, like androids and AI and stuff. So I'm always being into that kind of science fiction movies. I love them. And well, I just found this quote around in the internet from Mr. George Couros. And it says that technology will never replace great teachers, but in hands of great teachers, technology could be transformational. So that's for all of you, because everything that we learn, we should share it, not just for keep it for ourselves. And that's me. So welcome. Today we're going to start in a different way. Today we're going to start by having a little bit of fun. So I have prepared for you a little activity. So you have to remember the rules of the class. Keep attention. It's important. If you're here already, just by keeping attention, you will learn a lot, believe me. Have a lot of fun what you learn. That's the idea, in order to learn and understand better the concepts. And in case of disconnection, because it happens, just stay tuned and wait for further instructions. Please don't be shy. Feel free to interact and participate on the chat, on the Q&A chat right there, or into also the chat during the lab session. So I have prepared for you a little game activity called Kahoot. And all you have to do is just you get a cell phone, a mobile in your hands with the camera. You can just scan the QR code that I'm showing the screen. You can join the game. So it's about having fun, right? Well, maybe I have fun while I check how you guys do on this knowledge check that I have prepared for you. So I hope that you really enjoy it. That might be the frequency right on that screen. Everything's good. I'm very good, Antonio. Thank you so much. Yes, you found me. You found the 404. It's going to be only like a couple of invites, the first ones. So we can start really fast, because sometimes they just join and they disconnect and join, disconnect. So if I wait for everyone, we're going to lose a lot of time, right? So the people who cannot join, no worries, just follow us on the screen. I will share the screen in a minute. And let's see how many people. Wow, that's a lot of people. So welcome. I have a lot of people. Andy, Green, Alimac, Claudio, Reese, San or Susan. A lot of people joining. So we have reached enough people. So here we go. Just pay attention. Imagine that you are configuring a self-service password reset. Which of the following is not a validation method? You have to select one. You have to select it right there in your cell phone, choosing the color. What is not a validation if you want to? Carolina, no worries. Just follow us in the screen. What happened? Oh, there's a lot of people trying to join, I think. Which role will allow the user to manage all the groups in your tenants and be able to assign other administrative roles? Global administrator, password administrator, security administrator, or the user administrator? For the people who, and that it's the correct one. Okay, listen, for the people who couldn't join on time to the game, no problem. Just follow us on the screen, okay? It's just an activity, it's just a game. The idea is that you learn the idea and concepts of questions, for the things that we have reviewed during the last days. So you can just, if you couldn't join, no worry, because we have the reach. I told you that I just set up for a couple of hundreds. So no worry, if you cannot reach, just follow us on the screen. And that's for everybody who couldn't join on time, okay? No worries. You can even throw your answer right there in the chat. You want to be notified whenever the company is halfway to spending the money allocated. What should you do? What you do? You create an Azure reservation. You create a budget and spending threshold. You create a management group. You use the total cost of ownership calculator, the TCO calculator. What do you think you should do? Only 4. You create a budget and a spending threshold. But had you see how the questions had a lot to do with the answer? It's like very logical, right? So if you think in the cloud, you should think in logical. Imagine that your organization has several Azure policies, and you like to create. Would you like to create and enforce? What should you do? Remember yesterday we talked about. If I have too many policies that I need to be applied to a certain group or maybe to a virtual net, what should I create? A resource group, management group, new subscriptions, a policy initiative? Remember, like the Avengers we talked yesterday? Oh, yes, everybody go like, yes, like the Avengers initiative. Like we have like many policies. We have many superheroes for different cases, right? So that's the policy initiative. Everybody go like blue, 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 red, red, red. Very nice. Your manager asks you to explain how Azure uses resources groups. You provide all of the information except for which one. Resources can be in only one resource group. Well, that's true or false. Resources can be moved between resources groups. That's true or false. Resources groups can be nested. That's false, that's true. All the role-based access control can be applied for the resource group. That the resource groups can be nested, all right? So remember that it's not a quality of the resource groups. You cannot nest the resources, and they only have to exist in one. Lucas, no worry for being late. Which of the following is not true about the Cloud Shell? It authenticates automatically for instant access to your resources. Each user account can be assigned multiple machines. It provides both Bash and PowerShell sessions, or it requires an Azure file share. So which one is not true? Each user account can be assigned multiple machines. That's not true. Only one account. Remember that yesterday I showed you how it connects, like every time I open the Bash, it actually connects to, I'm looking for my portal. Yeah, at the same time, because we're going to do these things, we're going to be talking about the virtual machines. So where is my portal? Okay. Apparently it's not here, but I will open it anyway. Remember that yesterday I showed you on the badge, like how it authenticates automatically? So that's true. Okay. So we cannot assign the same user account to multiple machines. Like they constantly authenticating from multiple machines. That will be like, it will create a conflict, and that's not possible. So that is not true about Cloud Shell, and you cannot even do it on Bash or PowerShell, so or CLI. It's not possible. Very good. You are using PowerShell locally. Which of the following commands would you do first? Of course, we don't go that deep in the commands, but just check the logic of the commands. They are easy, right? What should you do first? You connect to the AC account, you get the AC resource group, you get the AZ subscription, or you go new AZ resource group. What do you think should do first? Exactly, you connect. What's the first thing that you have to do? Okay, well, you have to connect to the computer. In this case, you're working with the cloud. The computer is always working in the cloud. But if you're working on your own computer, what is the first thing that you have to do? Turn on the computer, right? That's how logical the things are in the cloud, in Azure. So, and that's the way we should see the resources, and we should see, for me, like the resources, it's like the instruments that we have and tools, and we have to understand how they work, and all the things that we can do. And if besides that, we apply certain logic to everything, like in the mathematical logic way of think. Everything goes as simplest as it is. That's the beauty of the cloud computing. Very good. Which of the following best describes the format of an Azure Resource Manager template? It's a markdown document with a pointer table. It's a JSON document with a key value pairs. It's a TXT document with key value pairs, or it's an XML document with element value pairs. So what do you think? And actually, I mentioned it a couple of times yesterday. It's a JSON, okay? It's a JavaScript object document. An XML, of course, is an Excel template. A TXT, well, it could be like a no template, So when we are talking about the Azure Resource Manager template, when we work with templates, remember we talked about the schema yesterday of the scripts, and we discussed it was a JSON. So very good, awesome. What you have done today, that is just great. I just enjoy playing this with all of you. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy it as I did. I have a lot of fun. And today, my dear fellows, we're going to be talking about the Azure inter-site connectivity. We talked a little bit yesterday about it. So I was talking about the VPNs, remember, and how do we are given with a DNS every time we deploy a virtual network, right? So, and a virtual machine as well. I'm just looking for the on view, which is, okay, this one, and it should go here, so I can watch the questions. If you need any information, by the way, if people, you need any information, just go to your browser, okay, and let me just show you here. Go to your browser, and just as easy as type AZ 104 you will see the Microsoft Learning Center. All right. And this is something I like to mention, everyone. This is something I like to mention. And here you can follow the learning path, which is pretty much the information I'm giving to you. Of course, here it goes deeper on definitions and deeper on information. Okay. And you can follow. It's provided with different exercises as well. It's provided with videos and sources and a lot of things. And then you can have your own account and be filling up the points. And so if you're kind of looking for digital information, that's the best way to learn, following the path in the learnmicrosoft.com in the learning and the learning paths. So about the today inter-site connectivity, let me just go to the next one. There was a lesson that we don't get to review yesterday quite deep, which is the configuration of the VPN gateway. You remember that I told you, like, for me, the gateways is like the doors, you know, like the bouncer right there in the discos, who's allowed to get in or go, or you know. So it's who's allows the access, and also I consider it as a translator for IPs, so we can connect different VNets to it. But let's understand it in a better way. First of all, we have to determine what's going to be the use of a gateway in case of we want to use it from VNet to VNet, all right? Or we want to use it point to site, for example, for a single computer to the site, or maybe want to use it point to business or point to the cloud. So we have to understand that VNet to VNet connections connect Azure Virtual Network through the VNet peering. And yesterday we were discussing also which was the difference between the hub, the VNet hub. The VNet hub allows us to connect single, let's call NICs, or let's call like single IPs to our VNet, so we can peer single virtual devices to our VNet. Maybe a fridge, maybe a virtual appliance, maybe some IP security cameras. I mean, like the options are really wide. So also, when you have the point to site and you use the VPN connections, you connect the individual devices only for the virtual network. So you can determine if it's going to be point to site, maybe your cloud site, or point to site, site to site. So the gateway that you are going to configure, it's going to be different. Okay? You have to understand that. And of course, the SKU is going to be different, right? So it's going to be according to your need. It's, of course, the price that you need to pay. And in the example for the site-to-site connections, the data, you connect to the on-premises and the data centers. Okay, that's all the way that you can connect. All the things that you have to do when you create, let me just go to this one here. All the things that you have to do when you create these VPN connections, and you have to choose what kind of, let me change the color here. Oh, that's a good question. Why we should use the VNets instead of just the peering? Let me go back to the other slide and let me erase my mess. You're talking, if you want to connect a VNet to a VNet, what do you recommend to use? Okay, a peering, of course, that's the best option. For sure, it's cheaper and easier, as you said, so very good, understand it. But in the case that I need to connect maybe a single machine, maybe I need to connect you from your office or from your home, and I need to connect you to that VNet, which is in the Azure cloud. So what will happen? I need a gateway, okay? I need a gateway that helps me to connect to that allows me to connect. And the same thing happens if you want to connect to your on-premises network. Because you are using, for sure, an IP that is not belong to the same, sorry, I want to erase that. An IP that does not belong to the same network, because you are using, could be your ISP provider. And for that, I have to do this one and then this one. Okay, maybe your IP is different. Your DNS resolution is different. So how the VNet is going to understand that you belong to the same network? And maybe that's one of the policy that you set up, all right? And in the cloud, in the Azure, that's important part of the security. So because of that, I need someone that translates through your credentials, through your identity. Sorry, I'm trying to catch you on the question. So you need someone that translates that IP, even that does not belong to the same network, okay? It is who you actually are allowed to enter. And you do that through the gateway. But don't get confused. No worries. That is why it's cheaper. I'm not saying that you connect VNet to VNet 2 directly. You can also do the peering. I'm saying that it's in the case that you create a site-to-site VPN connection, how you should do it. So you create the gateway subnet, okay? You create the VPN gateway. For that, you can connect it to the public IP address, all right? And if you want to connect to your on-premises, you use your personal IP from your on-premises. Let me just show you on the portal. Where is the portal here? This is not encryption. This is not. They said encryption is a good argument. Of course, they need it. There's a portal, and this is the one. I'm going to create an instance. I'm going to take some time to what it's just going to be created. I will tell you why. You have to remember that all the VPNs, okay, they have to be route-based. So they have to understand where we're actually getting connected to. Okay, it's not that I'm just going to deploy a VPN just like that. I need to put a configuration on it. Otherwise, the deployment is not going to be valid. You know, if I need to put it way in the cloud, but I needed to hook it or to anchor it somewhere. Otherwise, it's just like throw a balloon into the air. All right. So we needed route-based. Imagine it's like tying that little wire. A thread to the balloon and always having it connected. So we need to determine many things, not many, but we have to put some stuff during the parameters to create that route-based, okay, because we wanted to make it connected. Of course, you should choose the best SKU, the best price, and this is going to affect the number of connections. Let me go to the next one to show you, and I'll go back to this one. So according to the different SKUs that you have, according to each one of them, choose this one with this one. Where am I? Okay, here am I. You can choose, for example, Gen 1, 2, and so on. okay? And how many available users you can have, 30, 260, and the throughput of the benchmark and the speed. So it goes, you see how it increases? Of course, as higher is going to be the SKU that you get, the price is going to change. And that is something that you need to consider all the time, because you need to understand like how many connections you want to have through that gateway. Do you remember that old times? Because now we have like automatic machines, but do you remember that old times when we have the commutators? Is that the name? The commutes on the over the phone, like when we call a company and we can have like different. Everybody can use the phone at the same time in their office, but we get only like a couple of lines available. It's pretty much the same thing, okay? So we can create that connectivity. Remember that we are talking about the inter-site connectivity. So we create that connectivity in our organization. And I can create a personal line if someone's from other office want to call. It's like the red phone in the in the president's office, you know. Those kind of things we can create it in the cloud. I'm not sure if I'm just making you confused or because I'm trying to find like the easiest way to explain the gateways. And it's not only like do a peer, you know. If I peer just the machine, I have to comply to certain parameters that I have to configure in the beginning. But if I create a gateway, I can have a different instances at the same time, like different lines over the phone. That's what I'm saying. And with that, you can create you can associate the virtual network that will include the gateway subnet. Okay, you can even create inside the gateway. You can create a subnet. So imagine that you have hundreds of lines over your phone, and one of those lines connects you to the complaint department, right? And you have 100 of available persons there for hear the complaints. So you create another subnet, right? So we can create subnets of the gateway. And let me see if it deploys. No. See if it deploys. And the next time, oh, and one thing, it can take some time to make the deployments, and it's I don't know if you have been working with the deploying maybe a web page over the internet, or maybe an app of anything that you deploy, maybe your own DNS. So it takes time to propagate all over the internet. So of course it's going to take time to propagate all over the network. And in this case, it can take up to 45 minutes that to a VPN, it's propagated all around the network. So consider all the time, because this is important, okay? Maybe right now it's like not that important that you know like the speed exactly, but at least that you have an idea that how much difference can it make the different SKU of the gateway that you're going to subscribe. Okay, because of course it's going to affect the connections, like how many inbounds or outbounds you're going to be having, how many people can that bouncer out of the disco, right? Like you need only one bouncer, you need a heavy one, a bigger one, you know, like security guard. So it's important to consider that. All right. And of course, once you create the gateway, you need to create an object. So that it means where you're going to be connecting. So you configure that name and you specify which type of connection. which type of service. That it could be site to site, where it's could be like site to site, or it could be site to business, or like site to the cloud. You choose, right? All the configuration, but less talking and more showing. Let me change this account. That was a problem. Yesterday, someone was saying like, hey, that account, it's not, but I have another one, so. Is that true? In this case, because I don't want to. In this case, for example, the instance is going to be for the on-premises. So from the cloud, from the Azure platform to the on-premises. Erase this one. The connection type is going to be site to site. And I use a local network gateway to do the connection. And a shared key. Also the keys, well, I'm going to be talking of the keys in a minute from the key vault, but also we can configure a key. Like yesterday, you were connecting to your virtual machines and you create a user, you create a password, and you connect a VRDP, the remote desktop, and you had to give that key in order to connect. You have to give that password. In this case, it's the connection that you have to allow and secure. One important thing is that you determine the scenario for your high availability. Because we have to remember that each time we deploy a gateway, we're actually creating two instances. It's like the landing runways in an airport. We have like one physical runway and two operational runways, because planes can land and take off like both directions. So operationally, we have two, but we have physically only one. But in the case of the virtual gateway, we create two instances, and we can decide if we want to deploy both instances at the same time, or we just reserve the other in a standby mode in case of something happen. It's up to our choice. You see, the other, we have it in a standby. Also, we can enable or disable the active mode. So what happens if I have active mode? So it's like I have two different commutators for the phone, so I can create more connectivities, and they can work both directions and cross directions. So the flow of the traffic is going to be smooth, and the traffic load is not going to be that heavy, so we can create that, right? And of course, creating higher availability. Now that we understand and okay, now it's just get in. I will just I'm just deploying the virtual network gateway here. Let me show her. Like less talking and more showing. Okay, I'm going to create a virtual network gateway. Just be patient because it takes some time. Remember that we have all the time. It happens to me. Sometimes I don't know if I'm working on this menu or I'm working on the secondary menu that it's showing every time I access a resource. So let's call this one. This is going to be VPN. Of course, it's going to be selected. what happens here? It automatically is deploying me in that region. So I have to be careful all the time that I'm deploying the resource in the correct region, which in my case is East US. This one. So I want to create what kind of type? A virtual private network, or I want to create an express route. Okay, so also the VPN type, I want it route-based, or I want it to follow certain policy that I just create, or maybe some certain policy initiative policy that I create. So it's important that, because we already talked about the policies, and we're going to talk about the express route in just a second. Of course, the generation that we can choose, the SKU are we going to be deploying, like how many available users can be or IPs can be having on that VPN, how many connections, and the virtual network where we are going to deploy. The cost of the deployment, if you choose active, of course, is going to be related to the kind of SKU that you have selected, to the kind of generation. Remember here, in this one, we were talking from the different generations and the different SKUs. So the same chain and the different SKUs. How many tunnels, how many connections you can have? Maximum 30, okay? Or you can have point-to-site connectivity or site-to-site connectivity, okay? So it's up to you. And I was saying, and talking about the express routes and the virtual the wireless access networks that we have. And of course, there's different types of express routes, so we can determine which one do we want to use. Because imagine that we can choose between different connectivities, that's called tunneling, okay? That one, it could be working as a primary connection, and the other is going to be working as our secondary connection. So what it means, like I'm reserving, let's imagine that I'm reserving certain amount of connectivity that is available, connectivity availability. I'm reserving for a secondary connection. In the case that I need something that works faster, or it has like a special connection, like imagine emergency car that it can actually go for certain routes on the road or in the highway, and they're just reserved for the emergency vehicles. It's like that. In the case we can create those reservations, those instances, and we can create an express route in order to connect in a faster way, if we want to see it that way. And of course we do that because it's secure, reliable, it's low latency, and we create high-speed connections, right? And then I choose, for example, the express route. And of course, it's going to ask me like what kind of, I want to have ultra performance. I want to have like high performance or different SKUs. Okay. But in my case, I'm just going to do that. And do I have a virtual network created? No, I don't have a virtual network. I need to create one. Yes, I can change the theme of the portal. It's really easy in the configurations. Oh, what happened here? I don't have any public IP address created yet. Here you enable the active mode and you create the secondary public IP, but right now I don't have any machine to connect, so oh, sorry. And for using, go to configurations over here in your portal, you know, the little chunk up there, and I changed in the appearance, and then you can change from different things. For example, the menu behavior, that means how this one is going to be working. I can collapse it, and I have like all the icons here, you see? Or maybe I can just change the theme to white, you see? But I'm rather like working with the dark theme. So I can just show more. So that's why we use those express routes, and we can create special express routes for everything that we need. Maybe for we're connecting from a Microsoft Edge browser, and we want to reach our cloud that we have the different subscriptions, maybe our customer resource management, VNet, some apps, the Office 365, right? And we want to connect. We want some people that have a certain preference of the connection, certain preference of the network. So that's why we use the express route. Why I'm explaining it like that? Because it's easier to understand when you get a question. You know, we can do many things, but remember, and I have to say it all the time, I don't go that deep, because for the 104, it's not necessary to go that deep. Remember, you are learning step by step. It's a learning path. Of course, there are many things I want to discuss with you, and sometimes I get like a little bit of sarcastic, because we can play a lot with the instruments and the tools of Azure. It's like you fly in your own ship, you know, with everything that you're creating. You're flying your own cloud, and you are configuring your own cloud in your own shape and form according to your need. That's really, really great. But let's not rush on the learning. Just keep learning concepts, keep learning and understanding that there is tools and there is resources for you to use, and also instruments like the service scale, like the monitor, like the pricing calculator. There's many instruments that still we have that we cannot find right in a regular server, or into a regular solution in our on premises. And once we determine that we want to use express route, we have also thinking the capabilities. Remember that some of the regions that we have, okay, sometimes they don't have availability like pay rate regions, or the pay regions, it's not located in the same region in the case of Brazil. So we have to always consider that, and checking all the time the health of the network, which actually you do that in, you go to monitor. Oh, I show you, of course. You go to the monitor, and this is what I was telling you. You can see that I have like two different menus here, and sometimes we are inside of the resource and we are trying to look for the tool here, and it's not here, it's actually here every time we access a resource. So here in the monitor, we have the service health. And the service health is gonna help it to create alerts when we are into maintenance, or we're going to be like not available. Now we don't have any affected location. I don't see anything in orange. So it's important to check that as well. So we have to understand what are the capabilities. Even that I have like express route that I create like a primary connection and a secondary connection, but I want to connect from Brazil to the central US. So what's the point? At the end, everything is going to be through the same connection, right? So even if I want to create like a faster way of connect, everything is going to be, all the traffic is going to be sent through the same way. So in some cases, I can create it, but the capability of using it is not going to be that high, right? So we have to consider all the time. Remember to always do the planning, do your plannings when you're deploying different networks. The question, can an express route site to site can coexist? So that means I can create like a faster connectivity from one side to the cloud and the other side to the cloud. Yes, it is possible. And we create that through the gateways. We create that through the bouncer, the translator that is going to be there to receive the traffic and say, hey, I present you Mr. On-premises 2, or I present you Mr. On-site 1, who is invited to the party, you know? So that's why we need to have those resources over there, right? I'm thinking like in the old times when they came and they go with trumpets and everything, and Mrs. The Queen of here and the Lord of there, right? The Princess of the other side. So we can do that, but we have to create 2 different instances of the gateway. Why? Because one is the translator, the representative of the on-premises, and the other is the representative of the other on-premises site. Even if we want to connect to one way, to one, let's call it one party, to one event, and we create that tunneling, right? One of that is going to be primary, the other one is going to be secondary. And we can do it? Yes, we can do it. And as you can see, they don't have the same IP address. They're totally different. They don't even belong to the same network, not even close, right? So how they can connect? How is this possible today for connect? It's not, right? So we have to always consider how we can do that. And remember that we can coexist. But what we need? Another commutator, right? Maybe this is from one telephone company. This is from another telephone company. We can have one telephone service inside our own premises or our own cloud, right? With something that make everything to consolidate, like a load balancer. And we're going to be talking about load balancers, but I'm pretty sure that many of you know what a load balancer. So let's compare the intersect connections that we have many options. The virtual network, point to site. So from our cloud to our site, to our on-premises. And we can do that from our network and site to site. And we can create express route. What's important to know that the protocols we can have, they're active passive, and the virtual network site to site, we can create it active, as the same of express route. So what that means, that we can deploy at the same time and use at the same time the VPN gateway that we are creating. So good so far. The same thing happens when we are going to determine the uses of one. Remember that we can bring together the site-to-site or point-to-site connection as well as the express route. So imagine all that you can see in the cloud. So you're imagining that the cloud is only like this? No, you can create your own one. And you can be different. Each cloud is different, and they don't have the same needs. Maybe you are more about the connectivity, and some people is more about the security. Some other is more about the networking and file sharing. So it is according to different organizations. Could be organizations working, I don't know, in the car manufacturing, airplane manufacturing, devices manufacturing, and each one is going to be work different. Of course, they have some similarities, but when you want to have like your own quality control and stuff, you're going to create. There are going to be some aspects that are going to be different. And remember that there is two types in the one, which is the basic and standard. Pretty much we have in everything like the basic, standard, and in some cases the premium, which is going to be more tools to use. And for that being not so much, we end up talking about the connectivity and how we can make that. So I'm just going to go back to that one. How we can, this one, and I'm going to, because I still have some time, I'm going to go here like this. So we can have that connectivity with everything that we create within the cloud and within our premises. We can create like our headquarters. We just draw this one, our office, the main office here, the headquarters, okay? And I was thinking to just use the cloud. But one day I grew up and I was needing another branch and another branch and another branch. And maybe I go bigger and I start to offer my service of the internet. So, and not only just offering the services, and maybe my own workers are remote users that I need. So I start to create according to my needs, how they will be connecting to get to me or to get to the information that they need to reach. Because these VNets could be different. Maybe this is the only VNet for clients. Just go like this. Right? And this one could be my cloud for human resources or HR, right? And maybe this one, I have it for customer support or the CRMs, as many people know them. What I'm doing here, I'm creating easy, smooth, seamlessly way to connect, secure, reliable, with high availability, with high scalability, because remember we can upgrade and downgrade in a vertical or into an horizontal scale. We can scale our services in bigger. Of course, we're going to be discussing that. So before we go to the administration of storage, let's take a break. Let's take a quick break. What do you think? See you back at 11? Is that okay for you? No, sorry. I'll see you back at 10 Universal Time. You can take the last 5 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to go for a coffee, stretch a little bit. It's important, like I always said, stretch a little bit. You know what I do on my breaks? Of course, I go for my coffee, but I also take out my ears, my headphones, and I just move around here a little bit because of the blood flowing through the neck. So it's a good practice. So I hope that you do it as well. And also because of the ears, sometimes they just hurts. So see you back in a couple of minutes, people. There seems to be a lot of people enjoying this session. Okay, so no worries. We're going to be working on that. All right, we're back. I hope that you enjoy this time. Okay, listen. If you present some issue during your, it could be for connectivity, maybe your ISP provider is doing some maintenance and some stuff. No worries. Remember that the sessions are recorded and you can access them after a couple days after human verifications. Of course, that's really, really fast. So they will be available for you so you don't miss anything. And also the labs are going to be open until December the 15th. And not only that, but also after we review the labs that we have to review during this session, there is more labs available for you to practice, to learn uh, um, more about the resources. There's of course some challenges over there that I dare you to do it, people, because as more we work on the things, we have a better, a shorter curve of learning, of understanding. Have you seen? We work with the virtual machines. We deploy virtual machines during the labs, and we haven't discussed about the virtual machines yet. So now, when we get to that point, it's going to be more rich with the information that we're going to share because you have a better idea of it. Remember the first day that I told you that I love to play with the labs and into the lessons. So that way we have something to discuss about, and not everything is always new to you. It's always new the lesson, it's new the lab, so not always it's the same thing. Okay, so once again, if you are having any issue with your connectivity, because I saw some people just logging out the session, no worries. Just remember that the session will be available within 5 to 10 days. All right, so now let's talk about the storage, in Azure. How do we storage in Azure our all the information that we storage in Azure? What is the laser here? Should be, but it's not working. We're going to be talking about how to configure the storage account. Remember that when you access the PowerShell, when you access the Bash, we have to create an account, and it's the first thing that they ask us to do. As well, we're going to learn how to configure a blob storage. Remember that we have different types of storage, and we're going to be configuring a blob storage, a blob instance. For that, we have to create a container inside the storage. At the same, the storage can be secure. We can secure that storage maybe with a key vault, maybe with a token, maybe with a password. We can even lock that resource. We can create logs, remember, and we can create the files synchronization. By the way, I don't know if you know, but we have this also tool in Microsoft that is the migrate. If you want to migrate all your information from your on-premises to the cloud, to the data centers in Azure, maybe you have petabytes of information, maybe you have terabytes of information, and we understand that that information for you, it's really important. So we take care of your information like no one else. So imagine we are sending to you, and I'm saying imagine, like a truck of values, like the ones that carry the money to the banks and stuff. And you will receive a briefcase with a couple of hard drive, like special hard drives, where you're going to be connecting all the information from your server to those drives, and then the drives will be sent back in the same briefcase up to the Azure servers, the data centers. Once they are there, they're going to be installed into the server that is being reserved for you, and then you start to do the synchronization. Why we do it like that? Because it's easier for you to do it physically instead of doing like petabytes and petabytes and petabytes of information go over the network. We want to make sure that all the information it's actually coming from your own on-premises server. So then the synchronization is going to be with less information, you know, just for not having any loss of information. Just go here. So for configuring the storage account, what is the first thing we have to do? We have to create the account, right? Open my portal and move it around here. And I want to create a storage account. Oh, by the way, some people know the storage explorer, now called the storage browser. I'm going to create a new account from the storage. I'm going to select the kind of subscription. I'm going to select the resource group. And I'm going to call this one demo for students 104. You see how I always check on my performance. I want it premium. I want it standard. And the redundancy I want to use. I want it geo-redundant storage. I want it locally. I want it zone, or I want it geo-zone or redundant. And that's important to know what kind of storage do you want, and in how many servers or hard drives that storage is going to be available for you. In my case, I'm not that wide, I'm not that big, so I choose like locally redundant. For example, here on tags, because sometimes I'm creating many resources, and I do this. Sorry, it says that. So every time I hit demos on my tags when I'm searching for something, everything that I need to erase from the AZ 104, I just erase it, and that's it. We'll run for the validation. Remember that it takes some time. And we hit create. We wait for a couple of minutes until the deployment it's done. So why we implement the storage? Because it's a service that you can use in this account to storage everything that you need. Could be files, could be messages, could be alerts, tables of any kind of information, maybe videos, maybe pictures, maybe text, Excel, XLM files, whatever. And it's durable, manageable, scalable, secure, and accessible. You can store it for virtual machine, and you can do even unstructured data and unstructured data with the SQL server. You can even use PostgreSQL. You can use the not structured data. You can create it with Cosmos DB if you need to upload non-relational tables. And of course, you have two different tiers that could be premium and standard. So you can select when you want to store something. You want it the premium, you want it standard, you want it like high availability, high accessibility, everything, or you want just the regular ones, you know? The different services that you have when you create an Azure, let me see if it just deployed. Okay, it deploys. I would just go to the deployment. Okay, I'm already in my account. I'm in my account of storage. And I want to create inside of that account, what I wanted to do, I want to upload something, but what kind of file do I want to upload? Okay. And the first thing to have them is to have them organized. So what kind of instance, okay, I need to create a container, a file share, a queue for my tables, or just tables. In this case, I want to create a container because maybe I just need to upload like massively information, like a lot of information. And I'm gonna call it this one oh sorry, I just always go with uppercases. Container demo 104. And I will just create it. And I create my container demo. Maybe I create a queue for my tables. And I will create it. It's called demo tables 104. And this tables is ideal for like all my SQL or not relational data. Sorry for the queue. How would I call it? Queues or tables? Maybe I create a file share. And I will create a new file share because I want like all of my workers getting the same demo file share. I want that everyone can share some documents. And the shares, I can even deploy on my own premises or in my own cloud. So I have my storage browser that is going to be practically the same as my file explorer in my computer. It's going to be the same. Okay, I'm just going to select the subscription that I have here. And see, I have demo for storage, demo for students. And what happens if I open demo for students? It's like I'm opening my different file explorer in my computer. And it's going to tell me how many blob containers that I have, how many file shares do I have, how many files do I have in there. I'm creating the instances, so it can take some time. Well, in the meantime, just like that. I create a couple of those, right, in my storage account. And I create them, container, table, queues, files, and they're good for this. One, I can save the blobs, maybe some entities for the table, maybe some messages, some alerts, and the file for maybe some directories, some files, some images. And everything is inside of each resource group. This is storage account. It's inside the resource group that belongs to what could be good, the Department of Marketing, let's call it. And I can have another one, another resource group with another storage account that maybe I use it for my blobs, because maybe I'm a stream platform and I need to have just that resource group for my streaming, for streaming my movies. So I have the advantage to do that, to create everything with order, right? That is just the same thing that we should do that in our desktop. If you look into your desktop, if you look into my desktop, actually in my computer, you will see that I have a lot of files, a lot of shortcuts, icons, but that's not the way it should be. Everything should be in its own place. Otherwise, everything is there and everything is working when it's not necessary, right? It's taking memory for that. The type of account that you are going to be needing when you do storage, we have different ones. Remember, we have standard and premium. But standard, we have one, and premium, we have three. And why do we have three kind of premium? Because we can do blocks of blobs, right? Or page blobs, for example. So the block of blob is a scenario with high transactions rate. Imagine that you are moving, I won't say petabytes, but maybe terabytes of information at the same time. Maybe you are streaming movies and you're streaming movies for all of your users. So you need a storage account that allows you to have that high transaction rate. And it could be able to support all the traffic load. Okay, so that's why we create the block blobs, or maybe a page blob. Same scenario. You are streaming. You're streaming live. It depends on what kind of application you want to do with the storage. What are you doing with the information that you are putting in that storage device precisely? In that account, what are you doing in your container? What are you doing in your tables? What are you doing in your files? Okay, so once you know what exactly are you going to do with those files, then you will decide what kind of storage kind do you going to need. And very important thing of the bottom, all storage accounts are encrypted, all of them. Okay, so they use the SSE, which is also known as the storage service encryption, for data and rest. Is when you do when you apply the API, and well, you need the rest to make that API do the decryption. And this one is really important for you to understand. I'm about this close to tell you this is a question exam. But it's important to understand how replication works. How when I choose that my storage and that my data has some replication, how it works, where that information is going to be replicated, all around the infrastructure of Azure, all around the world. Well, if you want, but of course that's going to be, right, cha-ching. It's going to cost money. So according to your need, once again, according to each need, according to each solution that you have right there in your minds, ready to be given to your organization as an IT people, you need to consider what is your need. So every cloud is different. You maybe need it locally between the different sites inside of a region. Okay, so that means, what happened? Oh, sorry about that. So that means, where am I? Here am I. That you have 3 replicas in one region. Okay, that's all you have to know. You have 3 replicas in 3 different sites, in 3 different buildings, but they are in a single region. Or you can have 3 replicas, 3 zones, 1 region. Sorry, I'm sorry. This is about 3 different sites, and this one is like you having some bastidors or some racks right there in your data center, and you have like 3 different servers, you know, right there. You can have it in different racks. That's what it means. And also you can choose between multiple regions as a primary and as a secondary replication. So that means that you have 6 replicas in only 2 regions. That is 3 per region. Okay, but you have to choose which one, and these one are asynchronous. Why they are asynchronous? Because in case of a failure or something crashes, you have to make sure For example, you're deploying a solution, and that solution came with an error, and you don't want that the same error replicates in another area, right? Because maybe you're accessing your network from the other side of the world, from another region. So for that, we have this asynchronous kind. I'm just, give me 1 second. And the other, it's, like I said, the global replication strategy. It's important to know how you want to replicate all your storage. Of course, we got here, you want to choose between different multiple regions. You can choose different zones in one region with secondary, or you can choose an asynchrony reading with a secondary, which at the same time can connect with another region, and so on. So you get globally zoned replication. And in this case, you get 6 replicas plus 1 zone in another 2 regions. Okay? So pretty much it's to understand that when we have a replication, we can have it locally in one data center. We can have it in the region. That means that it's in the 3 data centers. We can have it in the region with another 1 data center of another region. We can have it with a region with as many regions as you choose. Okay, so it's important that you to understand that, and that the replication are not synchronous, are asynchronous. Well, this part, remember yesterday we were talking about the DNS, that you can create your own DNS resolution. The same thing happens when you create the storage account. You are being given, according to the different service of the storage account, you are being given with an URL. And this URL, of course, you can customize it to your own domain. For example, let's call it contazo.com, right? And it will be targeting contazoblobs.blob.core.window.net, which is the same one that we use here. No, yes, my storage account, blob core window. So we can create that one. Okay. By securing the endpoints, let's just go to use the firewalls and the virtual networks to restrict the access to the storage accounts from specific subnets or virtual networks, even from public IPs. So what are you doing here? Your endpoint, that storage account, you can have it secure because you want to access through a subnet, or you have it inside of a subnet, and you can choose who will be able to access that storage account. Okay. Also remember the subnet and virtual network must exist on the same region or region pair as the storage account. If I have another region, I have to create a storage account in that region. So the same happened with the replication. In order to that replication works, what I have to do, I have to create a storage account. And that storage account is gonna be asking me, do you want it locally redundant? Do you want it globally redundant? And so on. Okay. So if I create that storage account, even with my replication, when I create it, the cost is gonna be implicit on it. Each time I create an account, I decide what kind of replication I want. I will show you. This is not showing, right? And I think I showed you before. Oh, that's why I didn't create it. I'm about to create a storage account. And it's a 104. Where's going to be the name? Students 104 second test. Yeah, it says redundancy. You wanted geo-redundant storage. That is why the price of this one is going to be different. But if I choose not so geo, maybe not in the same region, maybe just in the same data center in different racks, maybe it could be cheaper. And of course, it's going to be cheaper, but also according to the region. Remember that regions have different prices and the resources have different prices according to the region. And I create my storage account. So what happened when I create my storage endpoint? And I would just go to my storage endpoint. Still in progress. I will tell that I wanted to connect to another storage in another region because it's globally redundant. And I start to create endpoints for connectivity. So what is still creating? I'm going to move this one and keep advancing. The blob storage, which is important, we use it for different kind of files because sometimes we just add too much information, too much data. And some of that data could be like images, very heavy images, maybe movies. And maybe a container, it's not enough. So for that, we create, well, not we, Microsoft Azure create the blob storage, where you can storage huge amount of information. Imagine like a blob storage is like a hub, like a dock where you can dock different hard drives at the same time, and you can just have a bundle of hard drives at the same time. You have that connectivity, so you can transfer all that data at the same time, and you can store data that it's not structured in the cloud. You can store any type, could be text, hypertext, binary data, any kind, and also referred to as an object storage because you're storing objects on it. Okay, so common use, the most common use of the blob storage. I always lose my pointer. It's serving images or documents directly to a browser. I need a fast transportation of the data to my browser. Like I said, maybe streaming services. Maybe you are like YouTube. Why not? I'm gonna say it. It's a stream server or like Netflix. So you need a blob storage account in order to have all those movies all the time available for you. Like storing files for distributed access, streaming video and audio, like I'm saying. You're storing data for backup and restore disaster recovery or archiving. Remember that we can also we can create restoration points. Okay, we can back up our storage, and we can create backups policies, and we can create logs on those policies, and we can decide for how long we want to create that backup, or in which cases. Maybe on Sundays, maybe because Sundays is a heavy days, or it's the end of the week. We can create restoration points and backup images as we want in the storage. Doesn't matter if we choose files, blobs, container, instances, no matter, you can create those backups. So when you create the container, let me see if already finished that, you create there. Okay, the deployment is ready. Just go to the resource. I want to have a sip of coffee. I create my account. So what I want to have in my account, do I want to start throwing up files there? I can, but it's better way to have everything organized, right? Otherwise, I can overload my own machine. So I create a container in this case because I want to upload some blobs like huge. And I'm going to create a blob demo 104 for all of you. Blonde demo, no, a blob or bloop. And I create it. And I'm in my blob demo. And I can upload everything I want. I can upload an image. Let me find something on my browser. I have many things here. So maybe in images. Let me find just some image that is not something I'm working on. I don't have too many images here. Okay, I'm just going to upload anyone. And I upload it. I don't even know what I just uploaded. I hope it's not. It's completed. So what will happen if I open it? It will give me all the information. And I can access, and I can actually, I want to go back here into my Explorer browser. We'll see what is happening inside of that Explorer that I tell you. Now that blob is going to be living inside of that container, inside of my storage account. Which is called the blob demo that I create. And I will be displayed here all of the files that I just upload. That it could be maybe movies, everything that you need. Remember that it takes some time, but that's what I wanted to show you. How you upload a file. That's how easy you upload a file. It's like attaching any file to an email and you're choosing where you want it to go. It's like that easy. Let me close this one here. One thing it's important to know and to understand and remember is that when I choose the storage, I have to choose what kind of tier I need. Okay, could be hot, cool, or archive. What it means? Hot, it means that the information that you are storing there it's going to be constantly request, because Azure is not going to charge you every time you save or storage information or data. It's going to charge you every time you take that data out. So you better tell Azure how your storage it's working, or it's going to be working. Because if you are putting too much information there and you choose maybe an archive and you said, I'm not going to request that information for at least 108 days and 80 days, and you end up requesting that information pretty much daily, then it's going to be like really, really expensive. So you need to choose what kind of tier do you want for the storage. And it says, for example, the cool tier, that it's for at least you need that storage for at least 30 days. That you're saying, Azure, I don't need it for at least 30 days. Of course, it's going to be 24/7 accessible for you. It's going to be there, all right? But it's not. They are not like getting worried for you to. Well, they get worried, but saying that is storage. It could be storage. Sorry for the redundancy. Into a reserved instance where they keep those kind of data. And the archive, like I said, is for something that you are not going to be requesting so often. But for example, if you are a stream movie service platform over the internet, which kind of tier do you think you're going to need? Of course, the hot one, because the users are going to be requesting the movies and they get bored and they stop it and they request another one and so on. So the moving and the transmission and traffic, it's like really, really high. So you need to tell what kind of tier you're going to use on the storage. That is important. So hot, a lot of movement. Cool, not too much movement. Archive, so it's going to stay there for long. All right, remember that. And you can create life cycles to the blob. Okay, that is constantly verifying what kind of tier it's using. Maybe you find out that you are paying for a hot tier, and you had that blob of blobs, knowing that the people is not requesting it that much. You know, that movies, that older movies. So once in a while, like people get to request, I don't know, Casablanca movie once every year. So you decide to create a cool tier storage for movies like that, you know. So you start to move things according to what you need. And through the lifecycle management rules, you can create those rules. It's like the same way, the same way when you create a scale set in your virtual machines, you know. You can create this management rule to configure kind of a threshold where if those files are not being accessed for a certain amount of time in average time, you can change the tier to a cool or to an archive. That's why the blobs lifecycle management it was created. So you can apply these rules to filter paths in the storage account. You can delete the blobs at the end of the life cycles, maybe some files that are never a request, and you decide to move those files to the archives, you can do that. Because remember, once you set up rules, those rules can create some initiatives, and the initiative goes with the policy that you create. So you pretty much you can automate what is going to happen there in your movie, in your cloud. And the kind of replication that you're going to have in the blobs. Oh, not here, it's here. Remember that replication is why. It's what? It's asynchronous to any other region. Why? Because we don't want to, I'm going to call it damage or infect with bad data other other regions, that we have it asynchronous for that and for another reason. But pretty much because it gives you the chance to make changes and be safe in case of something happen. Also, when you have the replication, you minimize the latency for request. For example, a movie streaming platform in different regions. Some of you are in another country and some of you are in other country. So I have replications in different container instances that go for different regions. Maybe they're accessing different movies, Blob 3 and Blob 4. And it's asynchronous. So that's going to reduce the latency between them. Also, it optimizes the cost. Instead of you sending the data from a very far region that is going to cost you money because of the distance, you can create your own replication in another region, and the streaming of the movies, using that example, is going to be not that much. And talking about the security in the storage, guess what you can do with security? You can create vaults, you can create tokens, you can create security password and single sessions. You can create many things just to have everything very secure. Someone was mentioning it over the chat, service encryption. You can have shared access signatures. You can authenticate through the role-based access control. You can share a key that is encrypted, like a token. You can use client-side encryption, like HTTPS. All right. You can create anonymous access to container and blobs. And of course, you can do an encryption on your disk. So all of these are the strategies and options that you have for creating storage security. So imagine all the security. You see how each resource also offers you security. It's not like security is just another topic of the platform. No, each resource has its own preference, securities, parameters, SKUs, tires, prices, cost. Every single resource is going to provide you with the best solutions. Okay. Well, this is important as well when you create. I don't like it that much. I don't use it that much, but it's also important. I'd rather to have my own key vault in this case, but this one will grant access the clients to the storage with my keys. Like I create some keys. I will show you in a minute. And the SaaS account, it will delegate the access to the resources in one or more storage services. So if I grant someone a shared access signature, that means that that person can actually enter the storage account. Okay, it's not that I'm giving the access to certain file. I'm just giving granted the access for the storage services. And of course, it's going to be like just for one. If I delegate a shared access signature, it's going to be working just for one. I will just go to the portal and show you here. I go with the, oh, sorry. To my storage account, I show you here. What happened? And here in that menu, I will find my shared access signature. What it's going to give me? It's going to provide me. I'm sorry, the slides are not being able to share because they're copyrighted by Microsoft. They're only available during the session and during the video on demand. So I can create a shared access signature, okay, which it will allow the access to my storage account. And I can choose what kind of services they can access, the blob, the files, the queue, the tables, okay? And also what kind of types, or I can choose the type, like container, the object, and so on. I can establish some permissions for that person. Let me go down. And I will tell, like, for example, you are using some subscription on your labs, right? And those are provided from a start date to an expiration date, certain time. And we can also tell which allowed IP address it's allowed to access. So we can set up all those preferences when we create that sharing key. Other way to understand it is like we are creating a token for that. But me personally, I'd rather to use like a role-based access control for someone and just create a rule or a policy for that in case I just need someone to connect for long periods of time, which is also good, this one, because you have the time. And always keep in mind the start time. It's important because sometimes the start time it's not in the same year, or it's actually ahead, and that can create conflicts when we create that policy, that shared access key. So that's what we do, and we create it. You can also do the encryptation of your storage account. Why? Because you need to be secure, compliant. You can do those encryptation automatically. This is 56-bit encryption, that the one that you can have. And how you do the encryptation? Well, I am in my storage account. I will choose the storage account that I want to encrypt. In this case, I want to use this one. I enter and I go to security and networking, which is inside. Remember that we might see two menus at the same time. In security and networking, I go with my encryptation. Let me just collapse this one and collapse this one. And I will choose which type of encryptation do I want. Microsoft managed keys or custom managed keys. I will choose the type that I want to encrypt that storage account. And I can create my own key from the key vault. Remember the key vault? Of course, I'm going to close this thing. Yes. So imagine how many options for security we have. And you might ask, hey, can we do all of them in one resource, as many as they're allowed? Yes, you can protect all your solution. And I'm calling solution when you deploy something like a whole solution on the cloud. So when you deploy your solution, you can create it and you can make it secure as you need, as you prefer and want. You can create there in the key vault customer managed key. This is not this one, is this one. You can create your own encryption, like when we were playing when we were kids, doing those letter encryption games of the papers. You can create key vault for encryption your app via APIs, so you can encrypt those keys, or you can custom keys given for more flexibility and control. So you can create like a really hard encryption password for your Wi-Fi connection at your home or even at your premises, or you can create just a single, like a simple password, right? That it could be when someone asks you, what's the password for, what's the key for the internet? And then you tell the internet's not for free. And they say, hey, yes, I will pay for it. No, 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 that's the key. The internet's not for free. You can't even joke with that, right? So at the same way, if we don't want to, well, actually we can. We can do like that kind of access key, that kind of word, but encrypted, right? It's possible as well. Remember the good practices for applying the storage. It's important that you always use HTTPS to create a shared access. And also, a good practice is to be careful with the SaaS start time. Remember that I tell you, be careful when you decide when you're going to start that shared access key. Be specific. Be specific for the resource that you want to be accessed all the time, because we're talking about security. We have to check all the possibilities that enter that storage. It's important. And don't assume that SaaS is always the correct choice. That's what I told you. Like SaaS is not something that I use that much. I rather, when I prefer to create a role-based access control for that one, for me it's better because I can modify that role at any time. And once I have give them the shared access, so that access is it's given already. So I'd rather to do that. Of course, it's just a little bit of work with the RBAC, but I like it better. One more thing, in the storage, we can configure the Azure files and the file synchronization. Remember that I was telling you how to migrate from your on-premises to the server. But that's another story to do the migration. But it's a way that the files are in synchronization with your Azure files and your Azure on-premises. So you use Azure files, or you can use the Azure blobs for that, and which the Azure files is more like an interface with client libraries and REST interfaces for your APIs, while the blobs itself, the libraries allow them to have that unstructured data, that you can have images, GPG, .av, .x, .bats, .flv, .mp3, .mp4, MPG. You can have like different extensions for your files in that blob, and that's what we consider as a block of blobs. Like we have so many different, like they're really, really, really big. And just give me 1 second here. Okay. So remember, for the people that they're presenting some issues, if you're presenting some issues on your end, maybe for your internet, no worries. Remember that you can always watch the video later on demand, so you got no problems with that. Okay, it will be available within the next 5 to 10 days. And also the labs are available for until December the 15th. So for that, you have a lot of time for practice and study. And the good time for the labs is that you have not only the only ones that we have here during this session, but also you have more labs available for you to keep practicing and have the hands on the lab and hands on the job, right? And learn more about the resources. Good thing about the labs is that you have like all available tools and resources, so you can play a lot with them and understand them better. So please, it's a good practice to do it. Remember that when we share the files, we can manage that kind of file sharing. And what we need, for example, file share quota, how much is we're able to share. In the case of Windows, we make to ensure that the port 445 is open. In the case of Linux, what do we need? We need to mount a drive. That it's the same case in Mac OS or the Mac operating system. Remember that a secure transfer will be required encryption, okay? So when you connect, let me just grab this one and put it here. Yeah. So when we create that connect to the share of Azure, we're going to select what kind of operating system we're using, what is going to be the drive we're going to do that connectivity, and the authentication method. Of course, that is going to be encrypted, right? And like I said, we can create like backups. Imagine that you're creating a backup. We can create a snapshot for that file. What happened? Oh, just we can create a snapshot for that file. Where is it? Here it is. And what will happen? I create that snapshot, and if something gets wrong or something gets corrupt, then it will come to that state. And we can increase that that state of at point in time. We can tell like from when to when we want to have that snapshot. We can create also a policy for the snapshot. We have to understand that that kind of a snapshot, it's a read-only copy of your data. Okay, it's read-only copy. That doesn't mean that I can modify it. It's just a way to visualize the data as it was. That for protection against application error and data corruption, so we can find out where was the problem. Also protection against accidental deletions or unintended changes. And of course, to the file share, I can create a log. Remember the logs? Each resource, I'm just trying to find my mouse. Each resource that we create, I will go to the storage account again. Demo for storage. I go to security, and I can create, where's my log? I can create a log. And I will add a log that it's called delete. Not prevent from the delete resource. And it's there. Now, I want to go to my overview. Daniel, exactly. They are similar to shadow copy. And what happens if I just try to delete? It's not possible because I create a log for it. So in the same case, happen with when I create snapshots, it's like I'm creating those logs, but without the manageable of them. Like a shadow, like someone says, The good thing of having the file synchronization is that you can have your different branches, your different offices. In case of a disaster recovery and backups, you can have it everything together. You centralize your organization files, shares in Azure files, while you keep the flexibility to perform and have the compatibility for an on-premises file server. So that means that you have everything at one at a time, like in one side at a time, but it's actually distributed, but it's also at the same with the same one. Jacob asking, which RBAC roles might delete logs? Well, you can create a global administrator for that. You don't need like that much. And it depends. You can also be administrator of the resource, and that way you can do the management of the resource. Remember that when you create a role-based access control, you will choose which resources and how deep into the levels they can reach, or how high into the hierarchy they can have those privileges, your users. So if you want someone that it's there for deleting logs, then maybe a global administrator, right? You have to identify something to know about the file sync. I think I'm going like really deep into this topic. I don't think we should go that deep, but it's okay you to know, because we're going to be working a lot with files, and you have to identify components like the storage sync service. Of course, it's a top level resource. It's a service, like I said, like the briefcase they send you to migrate all your information. The server registration, the register server. What is a register server inside the file sync, which is the object that represents the trust and relation between you, I mean, like your server cluster, and the storage service sync, the storage sync service. Also, we have the agent for the Azure File Sync, which is going to be remember the wizards every time that you install a new software, and it said, do you want to deploy the wizard? It's the same thing. It's the agent. It's going to be there to help us through the process to download packages and sync with the file share. We have to understand what is a server endpoint, that it will represent a specific location on a registered server, such as a folder. So what is going to be the endpoint? All the direction, all the route. The cloud endpoint, that's a little bit different, because it's going to be based where? It's going to be based on the cloud. So for the cloud, what we have an Azure Voucher. And of course, the sync group, which will define which files are kept in sync and which ones, well, we don't need it sync between each other. Like having like the old versions, right? To set up like all the synchronization of your files is really easy. You just really easy as this. You just deploy the storage sync service, okay? You prepare the Windows server to move. You install the agent, and then you just do the registration, and that's it. As that easy, you can just migrate your storage. And well, for today, that's all. Tomorrow we're going to be continue with the session. So you have a couple of minutes now, and see you back in the Q&A session, into the lab session. Remember that in that session we're still talking about issues and stuff and doing more demos. I'm just showing you around. But anyway, see you in the lab session. Have a beautiful break. All right, everyone. Thank you, Angel.